illustrations by Stephen Gamble. It was published back in 1984. This book is actually the first of a trilogy of scary stories to tell in the dark books. So the first one came out in 1984, the second one was published in 1987, and the third one was published in 1991 by Scholastic, believe it or not. Like old elementary school Scholastic was out here traumatizing kids back in the 80s and 90s. It traumatized me in the best way possible. So I said a little earlier that this book is pretty near and dear to me, because I think I can honestly say this is the book that started it all when it comes to like my love of horror and my love of horror fiction and horror movies and things like that. Because this is one of the first horror things I ever remember getting into, actually. And I remember, my mom would take me and my sister to the library on like weekends every now and then. And I don't know what made me pick this book, but I should have known I was just a weird kid back then. I was going to turn into like a weird adult that likes this stuff. I just gravitated towards it. And I remember the library used to have, I'm pretty sure they still do though, they had a section where they had these little baggies that was hanging up on a rack, and they had the book and the cassette tape in it. And so kids, before there was a thing called Audible, there was this thing called cassette tapes. And so in order to like hear somebody read the book out loud and narrate the book out loud, you would have to put a cassette tape in a tape player, and you would have to push play on the cassette tape player, and like somebody would read the book. This is before the internet. This is before cell phones. This is before tablets. This is before Amazon. Okay, yeah, I know. I'm old. I'm from the Stone Age. That helped me follow along with the stories. So if there was a word that I didn't know or couldn't pronounce, like it actually helped me like learn how to read or how to like pronunciate and read stuff better. And it was weird. It was weird. It was terrifying. Yeah, I think this is kind of what started my love for like books and my love for like horror. I think this is it. I think this is what kicked it off for me. And so I actually have this book. I must have gotten it in 2019 or so, because it has the little sticker here that says now a major motion picture, because I wasn't sure when this came out, but the whole series is like a 3-book series, but this book right here is like all 3 of the books in one. And yeah, going through this again, and I mean, you see the horror, or you see the picture in the little graphic I have here, and you can see this thing too. The pictures in this book is like pretty legendary and pretty epic, because this is some of the weirdest, most terrifying, most horror type of like imagery you'll find in adult books, right? So these books, they were published by Scholastic, and so they're aimed at kids actually, but like the artwork in this book is massive. Like I'm running through some pictures now. It's definitely worth the price of admission. I don't have a basement. But when I have my little corner, I am definitely going to print out some of these pictures and just have it kind of hanging on the wall. Not everywhere. Like, I learned my lesson from the website, so I'm not going to go crazy, but just every now and then, because it's not only is it like fun and horror for me, it's actually kind of nostalgic too. So what are these about? So this is actually, it's a collection of stories or like folklore that was actually researched. It was collected by Alvin Schwartz, and I think he like from like old world America and like some stuff from Europe, I'm sure. That's and just like weird stories that's probably been passed down over the generations and things like that. And so while the stories in here, as I'm a grown adult, so the stories in here aren't all that scary, but I do remember some of these being like pretty terrifying as a kid. So yeah, for appropriate audience. It can be pretty scary. I don't know how intense it would be, but that, it's really great though. I would recommend this, but you got to know your kid. If your kid is into all that stuff, I would recommend it. But if they're not, then just bypass it, skip it. What do I like about it? Well, I think I touched on it a little bit before. The artwork, definitely. I love the artwork in this. It's crazy. It's just weird. It's eerie. Like the artwork in this is by Stephen Gammell. Legendary. Like I can't say anything else about it. It's just I love it. It's one of the reasons I love the book. And some of the stories in here too. Like it's not. So the stories aren't all that like scary, like gotcha scary kind of. There are some in here, but a lot of them are just kind of goofy. I get the feel like you're supposed to tell this like around a campfire or like at a sleepover, for when kids have a sleepover and they get to the scary story part of it, then you just turn all the lights out, whip out a flashlight, and just go through this book and like take turns in a circle reading stories. But yeah, they aren't that, the stories in here aren't that scary or aren't that terrifying. And I'm going to say, even for a kid, even though some of them are, the vast majority of them are just kind of like really fun, kind of cheap thrill type of stories. Don't like about it, I don't think there's that much. Well, some of the stories are like really, really short, but it's not to his detriment for the most part. Yeah, there's not that much I don't like about this, honestly. If anything, they stopped at 3. I kind of wish they would have kept going, but I'm happy they got what they got. And I would like a more adult version of something like this. Like I really wish they could have did that, or maybe someone is in the workings of that now. To give you an example, I'll do like one quick story they have here. It's in the first book. It's in the first volume. It's called What Do You Come For? Again, the artwork is just, love it. Okay, what do you come for? There was an old woman who lived all by herself, and she was very lonely. Sitting in the kitchen one night, she said, "Oh, how I wish I had some company." No sooner had she spoke than down the chimney tumbled 2 feet from which the flesh had rotted off. The old woman's eyes bulged with terror. Then 2 legs dropped to the hearth and attached themselves to the feet. Then a body tumbled down, then 2 arms, and then a man's head. As the old woman watched the parts come together into a great gangling man, the man danced around and around the room. Faster and faster he went. Then he stopped and looked into her eyes. "What do you come for?" she asked in a small voice that shivered and shook. "What do I come for?" he asked. "I come for you." And you're supposed to jump at whoever's listening to you read. See, it's full of just like really kind of fun, dumb stuff like that. I think it's fun for kids, and little elementary to middle school age kids. I think it's fun. It's a good read. It's definitely worth picking up. You can find this. I got this off of Amazon, very recently, and so yeah, it's worth picking up. Scary stories to tell in the dark. 5 out of 5. Of course, it's 5 out of 5.